really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker. What do you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way. Close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Clark from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, my bad there. I was checking out headphones, James. You're going to keep us rolling right here. Thank you very much. Keep the music. Is the music run out right there? Is
it
that
literally
quick?
just ran out right as you got on.
My bad. Yeah, hey, that's my bad right there. I was checking headphones. We are good to go on this Friday. It is a bummer because we're in studio, but that is okay because we have incredible content for you. Beginning with the Pacers coming up later on tonight with the Utah Jazz. We'll talk that up. Dustin DePurak's going to join us coming up a little bit later on in the show. We are hitting the stretch drive of the season. I've mentioned this before. I think Sunday is going to be much more of a gauge because that is, with Denver, a high-caliber playoff team on the road. That's a gauge. Tonight it is doing what you have to do, doing what you need to do. That is what tonight against Utah, a team that flat says, you know what, we do not even want to win. The hell with winning. We know where we are right now. The hell with it. Kind of like the other night against Charlotte. And Charlotte had been such a pain leading up to that, being 0-2 the Pacers until that win back on Wednesday night. But this is a taking care of business. This should be a Bachman-Turner overdrive Friday night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Taking care of business. What is it that Will Ferrell says in Step Brothers? I'm ready for the Catalina wine mixer. I've been breaking necks and cashing checks. Tonight is taking care of business. And then on Sunday at 8 o'clock, we're going to gauge, because last time we saw Denver in here, if you remember, Jokic and company absolutely picked the Pacers apart. That's just what he does. I mean, that's how good that he is. I mean, arguably, I don't know how much of an argument we have. He's the MVP, is he not? I know Gilgeous-Alexander is right there. That's okay. If you guys want to debate that, maybe not right here, but at some other time you can debate that. But there is no doubt that the former MVP is right there in any MVP discussion. I mean, hell, the other night he had a triple-double with 61 points in a triple-double. I believe they lost. How do you lose with a 61-point triple-double? Anyway, that's the gauge. Tonight, it's Bachman-Turner overdrive. Friday night at Cambridge Fieldhouse, because you have to be taking care of business. Always. That's where we start. We got a Final Four weekend coming up to the national semifinals. That is tomorrow night down in San Antonio. If you missed it earlier this week, our friend Ian Eagle joined us, the voice of the Final Four. We absolutely discussed that across the board. Looks like Broom's good to go, 100% cleared and ready to rock for Auburn. You know what I need? I need Auburn and Houston winning on Saturday, and a Houston win over Auburn on Monday, and then I win both showcases. Just like Price is Right days. You're going to get whoop, whoop, whoop. Remember how rarely you'd hear that? Whoop, whoop, whoop. That's what we're going to get if I win both showcases. Somebody had told me yesterday, I think it was Nick, said, hey, you do realize that your situation, it has the worst odds. Like, you're going to give me the odds. Like, I care about the odds. Like, I will take my smarts real good in this year's bracket and knowing basketball over your odds every day. I'm going to take my smarts real good. Now, oftentimes that is not a good play. I realize that. Yeah, if I were trying to figure out my finances on my own, or, try to cobble together my taxes, or, adding 2 and 2, I'm a little bit overwhelmed. I'm swamped. But in terms of basketball, by God, I know what I'm talking about right here. So I will take my smarts real good over the odds. Now, I don't know how exactly we're going to handle that, but I would just assume, just like anybody else out there, I am ready, willing, and able to win. And that's that. But that's what I need. I need an Auburn and Houston, and then a Houston, and we're all feeling really good. You guys have asked, all right, if you were to win both showcases, or both brackets in this case, what will you do? I will promise you one incredible party where we can all get together. I don't know when. I don't know where. Again, I will promise you one incredible party to where we'll all get together. Like, there's some scuttlebutt around here, right? There's some conversation happening that just maybe the JMV takeover hits really hard. Coming up in the Coke lot the night before the 500. I was trying to imagine that the other night. I was laying in bed by myself, right? Just hanging out, watching a little NBA hoop or whatever, thinking, hey, let's think about this momentarily. What would a Coke lot experience with a JMV takeover be like? And I was a little bit overwhelmed myself right there. But that is, again, kind of the scuttlebutt that's going on. So we'd even do a party even bigger than that. But I promise you a party if I'm able to take home both of these brackets, because I'm right there. I will also tell you, friend of the show from Channel 13, the staff meteorologist, you can see her in the morning time also doing double duty on traffic. And honestly, with some of the dudes that do sports in this market, she could also do sports really easy. You know how good Lindsay Monroe is doing sports. They could, give her 3 gigs over there. Have somebody else carry the camera, though. She doesn't need to carry the camera herself. Just have a camera dude go out with her. But she is right there with me, too. See, Jeremiah says, live JMV takeover with your bar refill package would be epic. I will say this. My neighbors across the road, across Banta, the Watson family, the awesome Jeff, the incredible Glenda, and I can tell you this, the only piece of pasta that I have had is the incredible creation that Glenda does with pasta salad. I mean, it's just great. So that's the only time when I stray away from my mandatory chickpea pasta, is when Glenda is putting together pasta salad. Yes, we've talked about this having a major gig over there at some point. So, yes, Jeremiah, I think that would be epic right there. But I would owe you guys something, because I can't be the host of this show, the host of the JMV Takeover, the only all-request show anywhere in America on Saturday night, much less any other night. Really the only show on Saturday where somebody didn't voice track it back on Wednesday for you. But the only all-request live show anywhere in the nation. I owe you. I can't just win both showcases and not give it up to you. Or give back. And that's how we give back. I will hit that. A shout-out yesterday to Tommy S., to Brent Halverson, to Romy, Heaven Hill Distillery, Coach's Tavern downtown. It was a tremendous, as usual, event. I know a lot of you were countryfied last night. You were a here we go, do-si-do. I have no idea what do-si-do means. James, can you define do-si-do? Is that some sort of boot-kicking move, I think, dancing country? Do-si-do?
I thought it was something from, a children's tale, Ring Around the Rosie type
here
thing.
Here we go. Do's just hey, you know what? We need something to rhyme right here. So how about do-si-do? That works. But Brooks and Dunn last night, that brought out everybody countryfied, including our good friend Clayton Anderson yesterday. James, you have a definition of do-si-do?
A do-si-do is a dance move in square dancing.
So that's right.
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah, dance move. A do-si-do is a dance move in square dancing. But a lot of you showed up yesterday. It was a fantastic time, and a shout-out to our good friend Clayton Anderson, who came on the show yesterday as well. It's one of those cross-pollinations we do with Jake Query of Query and Company, which was outstanding. My man Thomas Hilbert of Premier Weight Loss, the author of My Journey. They say journey. I don't know how much of a journey it's been. It's just been a readjustment of sorts and lifestyle. It's just been me at 55 saying, you know what, I'm not going to jack around anymore. We're going to see what we can do to transform and then go from there. But a shout-out to Thomas of Premier Weight Loss. And by the way, later on this month, we're going to be doing a show at Premier Weight Loss. And this is up on North Meridian. It will not be believed. If you've ever thought that you, and hopefully I've been somewhat of an inspiration, I want to be, because it's all about the health. But if you've ever thought about wanting to take it off, not your clothes, but your weight, if you ever thought about wanting to do that, later on this month, I have the show in which you have to slide by. And I'll fill you in on the details. It's going to be a live show at Premier Weight Loss. And again, I cannot thank Thomas and the gang up there enough, both locations, North Meridian, north side of Indian, and Fishers, for helping me just author this tremendous 6-month moment where I feel great. And I want to continue to feel great. And health-wise, last year at this time, I was a mess. We used to joke about me being a mess all the time. Hey, you're passed out in the cab of your truck. That's funny. It's really not funny. So I took that thing to heart. We got busy, got down to business. And if you're thinking about doing the same, this is going to be a great time for all of us together to go up and check it out. That's later on this month. In fact, we've got that this month, the Indy Ignite up at the Fishers Event Center later on this month. We are all over the place coming up in the month of April. So you keep it right here. Of course, we're on the way to the NFL draft. I've said this before. To me, this is such a stinking no-brainer. And I know we all at this point should be worn out on the smartest person in the room or out thinking the room. And this is the maneuver we made, and look what we got, the best this, and we're doing that because this is what the board, you know what, the hell with your board. Do what every fan has told you to do and go after the best tight end in the draft. How hard is this? How many of you Colts fans out there have said, just that's what you need? That is what you need. This is not hard. I don't really give one big fat crap what the board dictates here. But here's what the makeup of your team dictates. Here's what that says. And it says, at that position, you suck. And it says, either one of your quarterbacks in this whole competition thing could probably stand to be able to utilize a tight end. Right? You know, even if you end up throwing the football 25 yards over their head, you could use a tight end. You have to have a tight end. You have to solidify that position. So there is nothing wrong with suggesting you go after the best at that position. Make sure you get the best. And then don't tell me later about, well, you know what, we tried, but it didn't work. Just go do it. Why does everybody else do it? Everybody else is capable of doing it. It's really the same thing when I talk about the Pacers. Everybody else fits things in. I will say this. Denver had to lose some players, but Denver had won a title. Other teams, when they feel as if they're on the path, they figure out ways and means to make it work. Let's face it. That's what dictates the terms between a great organization and an organization that's good. And we all know about the organizations that stink. But really, that's the difference. You figure out a way. You don't tell me, well, to have this, you can't have that. Because really, the rest of the NBA figures out a way. Especially if that is the reason why, one of the big reasons, a focal point as to why they're on that path in the first place. Why they're elite level consideration. And with the Colts, this is not even difficult. All you have to do is look at the roster. Well, you got this. Well, wait a minute. What? What do you have at that position right here? And I know everybody wants to talk about, and he was a really nice guy. Jelani Woods, are you serious? Come on now. Who's going to hold their breath on that one? The best on the market, go get them, because that's what you need. I don't want to hear about your guard position. I mean, that should be a dime a dozen. You make it sound like it's a rocket science to put together an offensive line half the time. Another defensive lineman? Well, that's the belief of the general manager. Well, I'll tell you what, the belief of the general manager hasn't really translated into anything at all. So here's the belief. How about the belief of the fans who have been right about corner, been right about wide receiver? Yeah, I don't know about your perspective on quarterback. I think I'm going to be right on that. But it seems to be relatively simple. I know what you're going to say. Well, you know, these people go through all this and the testing and the watching, and I don't want to hear a damn thing about the board dictating the direction that you go. I look at, or when people call it, well, look at this room. I don't know what room that it is, but if you want to call it a room, you look at the tight end room and you go, well, there's your dictation right there. That's what explains it to you. I know we're well in front of the draft, but a little bit of conversation is always good. Hey, they wrapped up the weekend of high school basketball for the fellas this past weekend, and it was phenomenal. All 4 games at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Bob Lovell, is this the final time Bob's going to be on this year probably too? Yeah, because there's not a lot happening after that. But with no disrespect to softball, track, the spring sports. Bob Lovell, a recap. Bob Lovell, a little bit of college. If you watched the NIT championship last night, saw Chattanooga. There needed to be probably a little bit. That's probably how it looked last year when my Sycamores were gagging up a lead late in the final 2 minutes in the fashion in which they did. Because you sit back and you go, oh, I don't know about this. That's ugly. Wait a minute. Miss layup here. Bad foul there. Awkward call there. But good NIT final, to say the least. If you stayed up to watch that last night, well done. You mentioned the Pacers, Utah coming up later on tonight as well. Pacers, Denver on Sunday. We have you covered right here, too. Yeah, not on the road today. Thank you very much, though, for asking. Yesterday was spectacular as we were downtown at Coach's Tavern. I love it right here. Thank you, Skivvies. Tuning out the noise to focus on himself. This is at NBA. You ready, James? See how Miles Turner manages stress and stays centered off the court. In this episode of Peace Amidst Pressure, an NBA partnership. This is Miles Turner putting together Legos. Where's he looking here? This is his place? He's looking out over downtown right here. Good for him. Can you imagine? Well, look at that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, he's looking at downtown right there. You imagine if you had a career to chill out? I mean, don't you do something to chill out that may not be viewed as the coolest, I guess? I mean, hell, I do. I have a bunch of them. Bunch of them. I mean, I normally do about 3 things. Looks like a hell of a story right there, Skivs. Thank you very much for sending me that. That's at NBA about an hour ago regarding Miles. Well done. Pacers, Utah coming up later on tonight. So are you on time today? You had the Colts Daily Update coming up at 6 o'clock, right?
Well, it's actually the Colts' last word at 6 o'clock.
Last word at 6 o'clock. Last word at 6 o'clock up until 6:30. Pregame coverage right here. All right, here's how the show looks. Bob Lovell coming up bottom of the hour here. We'll wrap up the high school season, a little bit of collegiate conversation with Bob. coming up. Dustin DePurak, tonight's game, looking ahead to Denver and the playoff picture, how that looks. Anybody else have a change of heart regarding the Bucks or the Pistons here in round number 1 of the postseason? Get to that with Dustin coming up at the top of the hour. Former Hoosier head coach Tom Crean, his thoughts on the new Hoosier head coaching hire and the Final Four and more. Tom Crean at 4:30. And is Wells on today, or Wells has not got back? Wells had mentioned
not heard back.
No back. So he may not have Wells. Who knows? But we shall see. Tickets to give away. We've got a lot to do, so do not go anywhere. Make sure this is a part, as it always is, of your afternoon. Modest Mouse, Flaming Lips, a little bit later on. 239-1070 is that number. And I'm sorry, temporary number still?
Still the temporary
Sorry about
number.
that. I see it right here in front of my face. 317-972-3005. Still the temporary. 317-972-3005. Let's make sure right now. Let's do a test. Let's make sure that it works. 317-972-3005. The temporary number for the Fan. The stream, the app, HD Radio, that remains the same, too. The AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Become a AAA member today. Your calls at 317-972-3005. And Bob Lovell coming up on the other side. Hang tight right there. A busy Friday is on the inbound with you. Thank you for joining us. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Swanson, full steam ahead. Over there. I want to go over there. Move over, Swanson. I'm driving.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, crank me up, James, right here. So I guess it's a one-hit wonder weekend on B105.7. This Canadian band would be one. It's Saga. James, you recognize this song?
I do not, but I actually enjoy it so far.
This is a kick-ass tune right here.
Yeah, it is.
I think they call progressive rock. This is 82. It is called On the Loose. One-hit wonder. There's some one-hit wonders out there that actually are not one-hit wonders. Turn it up, James. Sounds like a weekend with me right here, buddy. Canadian rock band Saga. A one-hit wonder. We'll be doing that coming up tomorrow night, 6 until midnight. That and a lot more, don't get me wrong, on B105.7, a part of the JMV Takeover. Tom Crean still to come. Dustin DePurak on the way. Talks Jazz and Pacers for tonight. And a lot more for you, too. Final Four weekend, obviously, in San Antonio. Frank Caliendo in studio on Monday in the 4 o'clock hour. So we were going back and forth via text this morning, and Frank is going to be in the building coming up on Monday. I will explain a little further a little bit later. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, I think we are wrapping up what was a tremendous basketball calendar season from top to bottom. And from Indiana Sports Talk, who's going to be all over it later on tonight and tomorrow night, and has about a month, I'm assuming, before his summertime hiatus from that program, Bob Lovell joins us now. Good afternoon, Bob. How are you?
I'm great, John. How are you?
Outstanding. Bob Lovell brought to you by your 13 Central Indiana Joe Childers Run Car X locations. All right, before we get deeply into the recap of this past weekend, I thought all 4 championship games were outstanding. Compare this year, both girls and boys, in what transpired to other seasons. How enjoyable was it for you, because you have so many of those under your belt?
Well, John, last weekend's boys championship combined, the 4 games, the margin of victory combined was 19 points, which is the lowest total they've ever had. And so just start there and work your way back. That was an indication of how well played these games were. And clearly Orleans and Manchester and South Bend St. Joe and Jeffersonville played great, but to only have 19 points separating you in 4 games is an unheard of number, quite frankly.
And what you ended up getting, well, I guess we'll start in 4A here, because otherwise we'll bury the lead. There are a lot of great stories, but that 4A, whether you're talking about Sharon Wilkerson, the head coach at Jeffersonville, with his ties and IU ties and all that, and then Fishers, how dominant they have been this season. That was one for the ages, was it not, in overtime last Saturday night?
Oh, I think it was. I mean, you talked about it. I mean, the storylines are pretty significant. You've got a 43-game winning streak for Fishers, defending champs, unbeaten, ranked number 1. And then you have the hometown hero, Sharon Wilkerson, played on the state championship for Mike Broughton at Jeffersonville, goes to IU, comes back, becomes their coach, and takes them to one of the, has to be an upset. There's no other way to describe it, and win the state championship. So in terms of drama, storylines, historical perspective, all of those are great.
Yeah, no doubt about that, too. And, I kind of felt going in that Fishers had an opportunity to win it in 4A, to stamp themselves, I think, as a team, because they bring so many back, to do it like we've seen in the past with LN and with Marion. And I think what you have to be guarded about in saying something like that is, well, they actually have to play. And that's what transpired on Saturday night.
My old expression is always, that's why they play them.
Yes.
You want to find out who the best team is, play them. That's how you do it. But they still, seriously, Fishers is still on a run. You mentioned a lot of those kids come back. They'll go in probably ranked at either 1 or 2 next year. And so, Garrett Weininger and his guys are in rarefied air, and what they've done, what they'll continue to do. But, hey, Jeffersonville was the better team. and they withstood some great rallies. It was a tremendous game in terms of the back and forth and lead changes and how well it was played. And it capped off, as we pointed out, a pretty solid day of basketball.
It did, too. The story in Class A with Bob Lovell, brought to you by Every Friday, your Express Pro Tire and Auto locations. Run by Joe Childers, expresspro.com to find out more today. Tom Bradley, in 26 seasons as the head coach down in Orange County at Orleans, breaks through with a Class A title, 64-55. And really the only thing that may have been the better story was the team in Clinton Prairie on Saturday morning last week that they beat.
Well, it was a great game. I was fortunate to do it on the radio network. It was fun to watch. It was, Orleans brought literally the entire town. You can appreciate that coming from a small town. And, the storyline, one of the big storylines that I just wouldn't leave alone was, here's a town it has one stoplight, John. I mean, one. And that's how small it is. There's under 300 students, and come out and they play in an area of the state where there's a certain level of 1A domination or superiority, if you will. They're from a sectional where Bar Reeve has won. Now they have won. Lagodi has won championships. You're looking at or played for championships, so you're looking at guys who an area of the state where it's really hard to win. They were able to break through, got a great start against Clinton Prairie, and able to hang on. Furious rally in the third quarter by Clinton Prairie. It was a great game, start to finish, and I didn't think it could get any better, and then it did. It just kept getting better and better throughout the day.
Yeah, it did. And the one thing that you can note, there are a lot of teams out there at that particular level that go out and play bigger schools for the competition and better prepare themselves. I will say this, in that particular area with Orleans, you don't have to really think too far out of the box in scheduling with bigger schools, bigger teams, bigger enrollments, because all those teams that are like your size are incredibly talented in that particular area.
Yeah, they are, and they almost all seem to be either in your sectional or in ones in surrounding areas.
Right.
We didn't even mention Clay City, who was ranked number one for most of the year in single A and got beat in the semi-state. That's how good they are. I mean, that's where basketball, you can understand, having lived there, grown up there, that part of the state, they take it pretty seriously. Not that they don't take it seriously all over, but small towns harken back to those Hoosiers days, and it was really kind of a slice of cinematic history watching that thing happen just like it did in the movie.
So Bob Lovell of Indiana Sports Talk tonight, tomorrow night, Manchester in 2A, a 59-54 decision over another great local story, University. In Class 3A, it was South Bend St. Joe over Addicts. It is highly unusual that a team in this area, or let's just say, for example, within 100 miles where my big ass sits right now, does not take home a title of any form.
Yeah, I mean, we I think have gotten spoiled in this part of the state where there has clearly been a certain level of dominance in football and basketball with the Central Indiana teams. And, give big high five to Chris Hawkins and his group at Crispus Attucks. And they were a state championship caliber team, as you know and understand and have talked about before. A great challenge for them is to get out of their sectional. And when you get out of it, you have a legitimate chance to play for a championship. They just played a St. Joe team that was really, I don't know if team of destiny is necessarily the way to put it, but played for a championship a year ago. A lot of those guys coming back, star-studded lineup, and it's just a great game between two teams, and South Bend St. Joe prevailed at the end.
All right, Bob. So what do we do now? How do you make this? You got about what do you got, like a month to roll through some stuff, then you go on summertime hiatus?
I'm going through I normally go through the race. So race weekend will be my last night on the air, and I'll take a couple months off and come back for high school football. And season number, you ready for this? Season number 32.
So 32. How many are we going, Bob? How many? Do you have a number in mind?
No, heavens, no. No.
Just keep going, brother.
No. I don't operate. I don't worry about milestones. I don't worry about those kinds of things. The biggest thing for me is I'm as you do, and I do. I have fun. I enjoy it. I literally, at this stage of my life, it's a great retirement job. I sit at home on the weekends and talk to my friends about sports and get paid for it. So tell me why I would want to stop that.
You're a lifetime winner right there. There's no doubt about it. You're an absolute badass, too.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know that that's true, but I've been able to get a few things done along the way.
Well done out of you right there. It's a Bob Lovell of Indiana Sports Talk tonight, tomorrow night. You got to catch the show before, obviously, they go into the race. After that, he's going to go on hiatus for the summertime, but it is always a pleasure, and I always get a little bit of a tear in my eye right here when we put the bow on a high school boys basketball season.
I couldn't do it without you. You're a huge fan of the sport. You make it all better for your followings and people who follow you, and your love and devotion to basketball is extremely important to what we try to do.
When are we going to do a live show from Iozzo's in Franklin? Is that on the agenda anytime soon? Who's putting that together?
I don't know. We might have to.
Yeah.
You might have to come down here for lunch one day. We might have to pitch that idea.
What's the dude's name down there? I forgot. I apologize for that, but there's a dude down there that runs it. What's his name at Iozzo's in Franklin?
I do not know. Yeah. I had lunch a couple of weeks ago there, and obviously it was magnificent. So we need to work on that. We got a lot of stuff to work on, but that's one of them.
I was wondering if I could, on my particular dietary pace right now, can I substitute, James, look this up and see if it's the same, my cottage cheese intake for ricotta. Is that in the ballpark? Yeah. Are they the same things?
They're not the same thing, but I think you can do that.
Okay. I still get the same amount of protein, same type of nutritionary factors out of ricotta.
I'm not sure about all that, but it's we're going to have to. Don't you have a dietitian on staff for you?
Yeah, and I just happy-go-lucky go through my life and whatever pouch of tuna is ready for me to open, buddy. Hey, it's a pleasure. Another great season. Stay in touch here, and if you need me on the big show, you know where I am.
I will. I appreciate it, John. Have a great weekend.
It's a Bob Lovell of Indiana Sports Talk every single week, brought to you by your 13 Central Indiana Express Pro Tire and Auto locations, run by Joe Childers. That's expresspro.com. James, nutritional factors between cottage cheese and ricotta, are they similar?
According to this, they are somewhat similar, but the biggest difference is apparently, technically, ricotta is not even a cheese.
It is not. What is it then?
It's
wallpaper paste or what?
It is apparently ricotta cheese is actually made from whey, or the liquid and milk solids left over in the cheese making process.
That sounds very appetizing.
Yes, very appetizing, just as appetizing as the cottage cheese. Yeah,
and I'll eat some stuff that stinks. By God, let me tell you.
Where did it say here? I think it said that it is naturally low in fat. Ricotta is, so you probably could be able to eat some.
Well, we'll see. Maybe I can substitute that. I have noticed that in my grocer's refrigerator, because I've got to go with the Daisy all the time, and not that they don't sponsor. They should. I don't know where they are now, but they don't sponsor anything right now. But I just the Kroger brand or the Meijer brand or the brand of wherever you shop, the great value. And while they are great values, it is just not the same as a dollop of Daisy. It just didn't. I don't know. I mean, you're probably going to say, well, it looks the same. It probably tastes the same. You want to gag on it, but it's different. It is. So substitution. Ricotta is cheaper, though.
Apparently, and some health nutrition expert on this website says, thanks to essential nutrients important to wellness like high-quality protein, calcium, phosphorus, and a bunch of other ones that I can't quite pronounce, that they both have those in them. So it could be healthy for you.
We'll make a bit of a transition to the land of ricotta cheese. You guys want to do that with me? B-Dub says, we got to get JMV to Fox Garden in Fortville. Did you know, going back, I think it was the weekend, was it Thanksgiving weekend? I believe I did go to Fox Garden on my own. True story.
Someone in the chat says that ricotta is definitely closer to cottage than pimento cheese.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we were talking about earlier this
I
week.
can't. I don't know if I can do the pimento cheese.
I don't think you can either.
But I tell you what, other than it being orange, it looks kind of the same. Looks like all bubbly and chunky. And
I guess. I can't really say I'm that familiar with
yeah,
pimento
it's almost
cheese.
like, and I do understand this cottage cheese is like something that you digest and then it reappears to you. That's kind of what it is. That's very texture-wise what it's like, and I think that's part of the issue. I think that's part of the reason why cottage cheese is so widely misunderstood, because it kind of looks a little bit like something you'd barf back up.
It does, and this is a great visual in my head right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying. I want to make sure everybody understands, because the cottage cheese, you shouldn't be afraid of it. It tastes good. If you get the right kind, it tastes good. And there is tremendous nutritional value in there. So we can make that transition to ricotta and be okay.
I think we can, yeah.
All right. Down with it. Hey, listen, don't tell me I'm not trying to help everybody out there. Listen, I'm the Pied Piper. I am 55. I don't care if you're 45, 35, 25. So all get together on this, because I'm about feeling good and having fun no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, because there are way too many other hassles you have to deal with on a daily basis for us not to maintain a level of enjoyment. And we're not going to lose that on my watch. Tom Crean coming up in less than an hour, the former IU coach. We'll talk about the new IU coaching hire in Bloomington. Plus, the two national semifinal matchups tomorrow night down in San Antonio. National championship game as well coming up on Monday, again at the Alamo Dome. Tom Crean in less than an hour. Dustin DePurak with a breakdown of business as usual, or as I mentioned, taking care of business. It is a Bachman-Turner overdrive Friday night at the Fieldhouse, because this blue and gold squad, you got to be taking care of business. Sunday is that gauge against a quality playoff team and a former champion and an MVP caliber individual talent. That's Sunday night at 8 in Denver. Tonight, you got a Bachman-Turner overdrive it. Quick break, we'll come back. Your phone calls as well, 317-972-3005. That's our baby number. That's our newborn baby's number right there, 317-972-3005. Incredibly temporary. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Look at all those ding-dongs.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, crank it up. One Hit Wonder Weekend is on B105.7. I'll have a lot of that coming up tomorrow night. This would indeed be from 1985. A one-hit wonder. It is Italian group Baltimora and Tarzan Boy. Yeah, Italian group Baltimora and Tarzan Boy. And realize this, a lot of one-hit wonders out there that you think, like Aha is the most famous of the examples, would be a one-hit wonder that actually, in reality, is not. True story. Tomorrow night, 6 until midnight, that's the JMV Takeover on B105.7. Thank you again to Brent Halverson, to Romy, to Tommy S., Heaven Hill Distillery, and Coach's Tavern downtown yesterday, to everybody that came out, especially in front of the Brooks and Dunn show. Clayton Anderson, Jake Query was with us, Thomas Hilbert was there. It was an outstanding time. You guys are awesome. That's what makes this show so damn fun. I had a conversation yesterday. You may have heard that after 6 o'clock with legendary from the 80s, from the Babies, from Bad English, and obviously on his own solo with John Waite, singer-songwriter John Waite's at Hendrix Live tonight. So if you're heading out to that show, by the way, great venue in Plainfield at Hendrix Live. And make sure that you tell John Waite, if you meet him, that you heard him right here. Great dude. He's been on this show a couple of different times. John Waite tonight at Hendrix Live over in Plainfield. And here's something for you in Broad Ripple tonight. This is at the Vogue. I am talking hip-hop rapping pioneer, the legendary MC Light, is at the Vogue later on tonight. Cha-cha-cha, Cole Rock a Party. MC Light is, if you remember at that time, there were very few female rappers, outside of, for example, Queen Latifah or Salt and Pepper, that were on the global, certainly national fast track in hip-hop, and MC Light was one. MC Light, that is tonight at the Vogue in Broad Ripple. So enjoy that, seriously. Just some great stuff in and around the area. Jazz and Pacers later on tonight. That's our focus coming up on the other side. And Dustin DePurak joins us with that discussion. The relative health of the Pacers, who he would rather see in the first round. Who is the better opposition in terms of being able to move on to the Eastern Conference semifinals, the Pistons or the Bucks? Dustin DePurak, conversation about that, and then obviously on Sunday night on the road in Denver. It's coming up. That's next. 30 minutes away from Tom Crean. He'll discuss the new head coach down in Bloomington, and me and you after 5 as well. Do not go anywhere. The Friday edition of this show at 317-972-3005 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
calls you a I want you to be nice.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
One-hit wonder weekend I mentioned, too. Robert Tepper, one of the more famous soundtrack songs, one-hit wonder-wise, from the 1986 album. You guys know this? It's 85, 86. It was released December of 85. Rocky IV. Yeah, Apollo Creed had just been killed in the ring by Ivan Drago, and Rocky was all pissy about it and driving around his Lamborghini, reflecting on his life and times with Apollo Creed. James, you remember that? Is that enough of a thumbnail sketch of the moment?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Pretty good. Also, did you know this? This is the song that I wrecked my 1974 Porsche 914, which, before you go, well, wait a minute, Porsche 914. Take it easy here, Rick Schroeder, Silver Spoons. Before you say that, it was the equivalent of a German Fiero. All right, a mid-70s German Fiero. So this song was playing when I flipped it 3 times and about killed me and my passenger.
Wow.
Now, let's just say this. The passenger was my point guard. He came back much quicker than I did. I was out for the season. I was done for the season.
Now, was it your fault?
It was incredibly my fault. It was all my fault. I was literally, what?
How fast were you going?
Quarter of a mile, way too fast. Way too fast and a quarter of a mile from my house. Seriously.
That's always how it goes, isn't it? You're close to home, and that's when you wreck.
Yep. It was very much my fault. Now, there is this still in my mind, there was something in the road, like a trash bag, but they never found this trash bag in the road. So
it's weird. My mom was in a car accident when she was a teenager, and she swears that she swerved out of the way to avoid a dog.
Yeah.
They never found any sort of dog.
No, we had a Target top. It was really a badass car. I thought it was like Magnum PI driving this thing around, seriously. I mean, it was a mid-engine Fiero, but it had a Target top, which in those terms, it snaps on all 4 sides with hooks and comes off. And it's a 2-seater. A mid-engine is a 2-seater. So the trunk was in the front, and that absolutely played a role.
You had a frunk.
Well, it was in the front.
Yeah, a frunk.
Yeah, the front and the back. I had a frunk and a trunk.
Oh.
Yeah. And you should see, the first day I brought it, all the rednecks from Eastern, my high school, were out in shop class, and it was parked out there, and they all went out and got in it, and they couldn't find the engine. It was hilarious. Where the hell? Hey, where's the engine on this thing? This ain't got no engine. Now, at least my car's got an engine. But, I didn't even have it a month after I got my license. I didn't get a chance to take it out in the sun or anything like that.
Was it completely totaled?
It was,
It was gone?
It was. Man. I have a picture of it all. I'll send you. It's just not good. It was completely tin can because I went like end over end and flipped it. And there were no seat belts or anything, and we were like bouncing around. I don't even know how we stayed in because the top popped off, and then we flipped. And my point guard ended up banging on the hooks on both front and forehead and then back of his head. And then, see, I think I had a couple of scratches, but I felt okay. And this is just my luck. So we roll in, and I'd mentioned before that I had passed a kidney stone in a game about 3 weeks prior. And I thought, this can't be an STD because I don't think I'd had sex yet. Unless it was myself. But I go, hey, wait a minute. There's something. And they found once they got me into the hospital that I had kidney stones. So, hell, I was in there for a month.
And you had a real eventful couple of weeks right
there. Yeah, no wonder
there.
I'm scarred, man. And I get in there, and I'm scarred because, like, everybody in Bloomington Hospital saw me naked. Like, everybody. It was like I was in the Playgirl centerfold. Or like, hey. Like, everybody did. I thought, man, can there be anything else? Can you, like, look at my elbow or something? What the hell? But true story, Robert Tepper's No Easy Way Out was playing when that occurred. So I always like to bring that nice little story up.
It's a good memory right there from you.
Yeah, I have a vivid memory of most things, but that one especially right there. I'm sure really enjoying the look back in conversation. Once upon a time, by the way, our next guest was in Bloomington, Indiana. That's where I was leaving from. I was at the Noble Romans on the west side after an Eastern high school basketball game that I participated in, and that's when the wreck occurred on the way home. And knowing Bloomington very well, Dustin DePurak of the Star, who covers the Pacers on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So you can kind of understand that trek down 45 and then State Road 58 on what can sometimes occur. Right, Dustin?
I can. Yes, it's true. I didn't go out to Eastern Green very much that way, but yeah, on that particular highway, it moves a good bit. But you were a quarter mile from your house? Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know how we're supposed to talk about Pacers after that, JMV.
Well, I don't know. Well, I think I was in the hospital for a month, and I swear to God, everybody in Monroe County saw me naked when I was like 16.
Wow.
Yeah. Except, yeah. I mean, how could that? No wonder I'm scarred for life from that. You know what I mean?
That'll do it. I'm glad. It's good that you're still here. Jeez, that's terrible.
Woo, yeah. I had a surgeon, and he was a badass surgeon. His name was Dr. Surian. And I'm assuming there's some people out there listening that probably had him. I don't think he's any longer with us. I'm going to tell you what, there was no getting off a protocol for him. I mean, he reamed me daily because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. I thought, man, what the hell? He was like worse than a basketball coach ripping my ass constantly. Wow. Dr. Surian was a badass back then. So, yeah. Hey, speaking of which, we can make, I think, a nice transition here. What's the
I can't wait to see how you do this.
What's the relative health look like tonight for the Pacers going into this game against Utah?
Yeah, they've got 3 guys listed as questionable. Mathurin is still questionable. They changed the designation from left calf soreness to left calf injury management. Aaron Nesmith is questionable with right ankle soreness, and Pascal Siakam is questionable with right olecranon bursitis. That's your elbow, like it's like the cup of your elbow is the olecranon. I think I may not be pronouncing that right at all. My presumption is each of these are sort of like take it easy because you've got a 3-game lead on the 4 seed and you're playing the Jazz, and this might be a pretty good time to give somebody a breather here. I think you've seen some just general fatigue for Siakam. I don't know that you can tell watching him that it's with his elbow or even that it is. I think he's only missed 1 game since the Pacers got him, obviously for personal reasons last month. And so, there's probably a couple guys that could use it. I think obviously there must be some legitimate calf thing with Mathurin because this would be if he misses this one, this would be 4 in a row. But obviously calves are not the sort of things you play with because calves very quickly become Achilles tendon tears, and that's the last thing you need. So, for the most part, obviously they're in pretty good shape. Certainly the Jazz are in a position where they're not it's not organizationally beneficial for them to win basketball games right now. So, you're playing a team that's going to be missing like pretty much everybody. Markkanen's out, Collins is out, Walker Kessler's out, Jordan Clarkson's out, KJ Martin's out, Cody Williams is out, Taylor Hendricks has been out for a long time. So they're missing a bunch of guys that matter. They've won 16 games. You would think this is a time. Obviously the Pacers tend to mess around a little bit, but when you're playing some of the teams that really don't really want to win and they're sitting out this many of these guys, it should be easy for them to grab a win even if they're not playing everybody.
I'm curious. Dustin DePurak covers the Pacers for the Star. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Tip time 7 o'clock against the Jazz at Gainbridge Fieldhouse tonight. 6:30 your coverage begins after Colts Happy Hour or Colts Last Word. I can't remember. Last Word coming up later on tonight at 6 o'clock until 6:30 here on the Fan. So I would ask you this. If this is like Bachman-Turner overdrive night, which is just taking care of business for the Pacers,
right.
How might they view an actual significant elite-level team gauge on the road in Denver at 8 o'clock on Sunday? How's that going to be viewed?
Yeah, I think they do have to sew up this 4 seed. I think that's important. They do realize that getting in the playoff isn't enough. I asked about that the other night. If there's challenges as far as having already clinched a playoff berth, what are the challenges going forward? And I imagine that's probably a reason why a couple of these guys are on the list tonight. Nesmith and Siakam in particular, that, you have Denver coming up in elevation on a 1-game trip, basically. There's a lot of reasons that you would have to kind of gear up and rest some people up for that type of game. And so, I would think they have to view that as something that matters, and you're trying to win as many of these as you can, and at least until you're assured you're locked into the 4. You still have an outside shot at catching the Knicks at the 3, and you wouldn't mind having that. But you'd like, I think, to be able to assure yourself, 4 out of 7 at home in that first series, whether it's against Milwaukee or whether it's against Detroit. So they're going to try to win all these. But obviously against, I think, Utah and Washington, you can maybe give somebody a breather and still be able to win because they're giving a lot of guys breathers. If you're out one guy or two guys, you should be able to still win that game. Obviously, you're not trying to put yourself in the same position. You're not, trying to do the same thing you did with the Timberwolves. That was just a night where they knew they were going to miss a bunch of guys, figured, it was unlikely they were going to have a chance to win it, and they still did it. You don't want to put yourself in that position again where you're sitting like Halliburton or Turner just to do it. But you might give a guy, a Siakam or a Nesmith or somebody like that, one or two guys a breather in this one or against Washington next Tuesday. But I do think they're going to go for it against Denver. Like you said, it is a high-level game. Try to get a good tune-up going into playoffs and try to take as many wins as you can possibly get down the stretch here.
So Dustin DePurek of the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. You at all, from following this team this season, have a personal preference on what you think would help them out as far as their first-round matchup? Pistons, Bucks, to get them. I don't know if it's going to be a helper to the Eastern Conference semifinals, but what do you think the better matchup is for them?
Yeah, I think obviously it depends on Damian Lillard, really. At the end of the day, I think you still feel like you've got the experience advantage over the Pistons. You've seen them get overly heated, and you feel like you can take advantage of that. I would say, the Pistons are going to be the team that hasn't been there before. They're going to come up fired up, and that's one reason why you want to make sure that you don't let them have home court advantage. You're not going to sweep them because I think you're going to go into their even if you do have home court advantage, you're going to go into game 3 and, Detroit's going to be just nuts and you're going to have a really hard time getting out of there with a win. But, you could probably still, you might be able to win a game there. And if you take care of business at home, you should be in good enough shape. Because, again, you're going to be dealing with a team that's young. I still don't think they're going to have Ivy back. They're dangerous, no doubt about it. Detroit is. Milwaukee, it's a question of, but I still think you can get them. Milwaukee, if you're playing Milwaukee with Lillard, obviously you're dealing with two, how many time all NBA players. You have to consider them dangerous. Certainly, you took them down last year without, with Giannis out entirely, with Lillard missing a couple games. They're going to have something to prove if you play them again. So, but if you're playing them without Lillard, then you can absolutely get him. So, Giannis, if he's going to play like he did last night, might be able to still carry them to the 5. And the Bucks, Giannis is still Giannis, so that's a force in nature. But I would say I think you're better off playing the Pistons than a full-strength Milwaukee team. You're probably better off playing a Milwaukee team without Lillard than you are playing the full-strength Pistons.
So Dustin DePurek joins us. I want to double back to what you said about Pascal Siakam. And, all right, rest, maybe that is necessary. I also referenced, I thought he was a dude at the time that really needed to see some shots go in the basket, too. Mm-hmm. That was the other thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's obviously he's been so consistent all year, and you're just only now starting to see a little bit, not a little bit, a significant amount of fall-off, especially shooting the basketball. And I think his last 6 games he's shooting something like 22% from 3, and that's not normal. This has been probably the best three-point shooting season of his career up until this point. I think he might be a tick down from that now. He's right around it. He's at 38.5. He was at 38.6 last year. So this is, for the whole course of this year, it's the best he's ever shot the 3 in his life. But, it's obviously starting. He's gone through a stretch where he's just not getting those goes to go down. So he absolutely does need to see some shots. Even the stuff that has been his bread and butter, his kind of turnaround, mid-range, jumper out of a post-up stuff, hasn't been as automatic lately. So, maybe that's a fatigue factor. But, yeah, he could, use a stretch where he feels that same level of dominance that's been there most of this year. I mean, for a lot of that season, that shot was automatic, and it's an incredibly hard shot to make. But it hasn't been as reliable as it has recently. So he's got to do something to get himself back on track. Again, for a year that he's been absurdly consistent, really, you're only starting to see a lull from him for kind of the first time all year.
Hey, when you look at the improvement defensively this team has made from last year to this year, what stands out to you as the reason why? And I'll start right here because he is still not at even close to a great defensive player. But I think that there is much more want to from their team leader in Tyrese Halliburton right now than there was a year ago. And I think that brings a lot to the reason why we've seen them improve.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think there's also opportunity. I mean, I think one thing he's always been good at, and I think he is better now than he was a year ago at kind of on-ball stopping somebody defense. He's still not good at that. I mean, that's his weak point, but I think he's better than he was a year ago. Every once in a while, you'll still see somebody come in transition, and you'll see him kind of olay somebody, and you're like, oh, come on, Ty, like for real. But, I mean, he is still a positive on the defensive end because of just how good he is at reading the ball and reading plays and being, just figuring out a way to get a steal. I mean, I think he's come down a little bit, but I mean, he was at 2.6 steals a game since the break. And it's just the amount of pressure they play has created some more of those situations. I think that there's been more opportunities for him to go read the ball and go take it, rather than just always being in isolation situations or having teams put him hunt him in pick and rolls and matchups and stuff like that. I mean, those are areas where he's not very good. I think the amount of pressure they created force other teams to pass the ball around a little bit, put the ball in the air. He can read it like a free safety a little bit, where he's sort of like moving from place to place and just going, and picking stuff off and turning that into transition baskets. Like, I mean, that is, I think, a skill that gets underrated with him because he's not that good, kind of man-to-man on the ball or whatever. He's really good at basketball IQ, instinct stuff, and running around and being able to get steals and stuff like that, or get rebounds even. And that, I think, is really added to them. I mean, like, I think the biggest thing kind of collectively that's made them better defensively is the amount of turnovers they're causing. I mean, I think they're top 10 in the league. I think they're top 5 since January 1st, at least the last time I checked. Those numbers might have changed since the last time I saw it. But, the amount of pressure they're causing is creating a lot of turnovers and ability to go elsewhere. And I think Halliburton's style of play fits into that pretty well. Even if he's not necessarily the guy who's jamming the ball coming down, he's a guy that can read it if you force a guy to get rid of the ball early.
Hey, Dustin, with the recent performance and production from Jarris Walker, will this challenge Rick Carlisle and staff to maybe make a rotational change here?
I think so. I mean, I think they kind of already have.
I guess I would say a minute-tized rotational change.
I would say, I mean, really it just comes down to lately he's playing better than Ben Shepherd. And so I think that gets him kind of the last spot in the rotation. I mean, Shepherd's been a guy they've been able to trust. He hasn't made as many threes lately. He's been a little bit colder as far as making those shots. And basically, when he's good, the way Rick Carlisle describes it is, he's just a pure system guy. He does exactly what you want him to do, which is play tough defense, move the ball, and make the open shots. And when he's not making the open shots, you lose some value. I don't know that he's been as good defensively as kind of the standard that he'd set. And Walker obviously has a higher ceiling because there's some other stuff that he can do. He's obviously just a bigger guy. He can really rebound the ball. He can defend more positions. And you're seeing growth on him in him defensively. He's really shooting the ball well. He's shooting the ball fantastically lately. I mean, I think over the last 4 or 5, he's shooting like 45% from three. That'll come down a little bit, obviously. He's not that good of a shooter, but it's still that he can get that streaky is a positive. You're starting to see more variance in his game, his ability to score the ball. He hasn't always been great at finishing at the rim when he should be because he's huge. I think you're seeing some improvement there. There's a lot of little bits in his game that have gotten better, I think. And so I think he's finally, at least, I think it's pretty steady over the last couple weeks. He's clearly played better than Shepherd. And so I think that gives him an advantage there, going forward. I mean, so, how much is either of those guys going to play when you get into playoffs? Are they still going to be a part of the rotation either way? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see how they shake that out. Obviously, they still have, Mathurin and, you imagine Mathurin, McConnell on top and are going to get a lot of minutes. Are they going to go 9 deep? And, certainly they would have to use Bryant sometimes. So they're really going to, have two full rotations in the playoffs. How often are they going to do that? So that's going to be an interesting question. But, yeah, I do think he's definitely helped himself over the last couple games for sure. And I think Shepard hitting a little bit of a slump here probably has him a little bit ahead right now.
Dustin DePurak of the Star covers the Pacers on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Back in the day, worked at the Bloomington Herald-Times, and we'll tie a bow on this conversation. Can you believe that a former colleague of yours, the legendary Len Hauser, did not vote me all SWIAC after I scored 11 points in the second half against Shakamak my sophomore year after passing a kidney stone at the half in the locker room? Can you believe that?
I mean, it's just
there's nobody's ever done that. Nobody's ever done that before. Nobody.
Clearly, Hauser had it out for you. I mean, what did you do to him? That's my question.
Oh man, I know that Rex had to cover Bloomington South. I know that Rex could never dabble into the SWIAC or anything like that. But damn, Lynn, come on, man.
Mm-hmm. Fair. Yeah, House was on Edgewood. It was all over that beat.
Yeah, he was Edgewood, and then all the smaller schools outside.
Mm-hmm.
Who was doing Bloomington North back then?
Andy.
Oh yeah, Andy Graham. Shout out to Andy Graham. I forgot about Andy Graham back then.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the columnist when you were there?
Oh God, the columnist when I was there it switched. But so Rex was gone before I got there.
Okay.
Hauser was still there. Andy had moved over to education, and we moved him back. And first year I got there, I was hired by Chris Corman, the guy who I went to Penn State with. And then so Chris was the columnist, and I was the beat writer on football, basketball. Corman went to Baltimore, has been there since. And so then Hugh Kellenberger and
Hugh
Andy
Ole Miss.
So we had
Hugh was Ole Miss, right? Southeastern Conference country.
Went to Clarion Ledger after that, and then so we got Ryan Karchi replaced Hugh, and then we moved Jeremy Price onto the columnist after Karchi left.
Yeah,
Karchi covers USC for the LA Times now. So yeah, everybody's bopped around since then. So we had the answer is a lot of people were columnists when I was there. But Andy, once they moved Andy over to football columnist, he was football columnist throughout that time. And I think he stayed there for another 8 or 9 years, 7 years after that. Then he retired, went to work for IU a little bit. Now he's totally retired now.
I'm telling you. I needed to be coached, and nothing against my coach. I had a really good coach and Gary Cook, great guy. But if I would have been coached by Ron Hiklinski, I think everything would have been changed. I do. The Hall of Famer right here. He would have kicked me off the team 50 times. There'd be no doubt about that. But I think everything would have been, because then Len Hauser would have voted me. What was that, West Central Conference, I think, with Edgewood, right? Maybe it's changed from back in the day, because I think Danville was a part of it back then, but it may still be West Central Conference. So
might be. I don't actually know that.
Well, we're working. Sure. We're working your knowledge right here, buddy. Let me tell you that.
I've learned a lot in this.
11 in the second half. Can you imagine if you're Shakamak and that guy just passed a kidney stone in the locker room? He knows it's not an STD, but he doesn't know what really is going on here. And his coach said
all of them had to inform him what a kidney stone was, and they were like, "What? He did what?"
My coach said I was fat and out of shape, and I said, "Yeah, but still something shot out of here at the half, all right? And it's not supposed to." I heard it. It sounded like an old cowboy western movie Ricochet sound effect here on the urinal, all right? So that is not what's supposed to happen. Can you imagine? No wonder I'm scarred as hell right now. Seriously.
That'll do it. Both of those things in a row is a lot. I had a good friend had one in age 19 of a kidney stone, and we were all blown away by this. This was the thing we were like, what? And he kept it, and we saw it. We're like, you did what with this?
I almost filed a lawsuit against Big Red back in the day. Buddy, hey, enjoy the games coming up this weekend as well. Again, Pacers Jazz tonight, 7 o'clock tip time, 8 o'clock, I believe it is, coming up. Our time in Denver at the Ball Arena versus the Nuggets coming up on Sunday night. Dustin DePurak covers the Pacers for the Star of the Andy Moore Automotive Group.
But send Tom Crean my regards, by the way.
I will. I absolutely will. Tom Crean's going to join us coming up on the other side. Thanks, Dustin.
Thank you.
I will not bring up my kidney stones with Tom Crean. I promise we will specifically talk about the new head coach in Bloomington and the Final Four this weekend. The former IU coach going to join us on the other side. I always had J-Law. He said Ron Heklinski was our JV coach at Richmond. I always had a great deal of incredible respect and admiration for Ron Heklinski. And here's what I know. He would have run me every single day because I was a huge wuss, and I whined like a huge wuss all the time. Oh, I got to run this. Oh, stair laps that. I can't do what I want. He would have run, but I would have been better for it. Seriously. Those are the things that you notice when you grow up and you look back and you go, wow, you know? It's like when I talked about yesterday with Billy Shepard regarding Mark Barnheiser. He would have kicked me off the team 50 times had he been my coach. For being just a big wuss, but it would have been, I think, better off learning that then than learning that years or decades later, if that makes sense to you right here. But I always had a great deal of admiration for Ron Heklinski back in the day. And J.R. Holmes, without saying, was the coach at Bloomington, still is the coach at Bloomington South. Also a great deal of admiration there. Tom Crean's going to join us on the other side. And maybe something clear in the 5 o'clock hour for us to discuss at 317-972-3005. The temporary number for the sustained greatness of this station. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
JMV.
And the beat goes on, yeah. And the beat goes on.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Make sure you have your tickets. The band out of Oklahoma, the All-American Rejects, right here. Brett Michaels also a part of it. May 23rd, IMS. Of course, I'm talking about Carb Day 2025. Tickets are available for that. I'm telling you what, we're going to make the afternoon of it. I'll do my show out there. Pagoda Plaza will be a part of this show as well. I know our good friend Clayton Anderson is going to be playing out on Main Street and Speedway. But this is specifically about how you get inside IMS, as we're going to have an absolute blast on Carb Day 2025. The All-American Rejects, Brett Michaels, the entertainment, with everything else that's going to be going on. Make sure you get your tickets and do that now. IMS.com. And we got something coming up for you. Doug Bowles and I will unleash this even more. Got something working coming up next week, I shall explain. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline from ESPN, he is the former coach doing a lot of analyst work, and we love having him on the show. The former coach down in Bloomington at IU. It's Tom Crean with us right now. Hey, Tom, good afternoon to you. How are you?
I'm good. How about you? Any pickup games at the Hyper lately?
You know what? I was supposed to go this morning, and I didn't make it down. I'm going back on Monday morning. I try to go Monday, Wednesday, and Friday before I come to work.
That's a pretty good day. That's a pretty good way to stay in shape. That's great.
I love it. You know, and Tom, the one thing I realized at 55 here, I think the moment that I stop, that's when I see everybody get hurt. Because basketball is a tough game on you. I mean, it is, and you just can't jump right back in. It's tough not to get hurt.
Oh, absolutely, and it's like anything else. It doesn't matter if you're young or if you're old. I mean, you have to do an incredible job of stretching and warming up. Yep. We always like to warm up as a team and then stretch, you know, as I got to be more experienced as a coach, and I thought that always helped. And then you got to have the discipline to kind of take it down a notch once you're done and kind of stretch when you're done playing too. Easier said than done, but worthwhile as long as you don't get hurt.
No, it is. There's no doubt about that too, and it also helps when you lose a bunch of weight, as I've done too, and feel much better with your body at the age of 55 right now. But no, Center Grove Sunday morning is where we shall be next up. So that's always a good run right there too. We go Southport sometimes, Center Grove. We're all over the place around here.
That's good. Easy travel. That's great.
It is. Dustin DePurek was just on with me. He covers the Pacers for the Indy Star. Wanted me to tell you hello.
Okay. Yep. I like Dustin.
Yeah. Good dude.
Known him a long time now. Yep.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right. I want to start here. I don't think we've had a conversation about the new IU head coach. What do you think about Darren DeVries as next man up down in Bloomington?
I don't really know him. I know of him, obviously, and have followed his work. I think he's done a good job being a head coach with what he did at Drake and the 1 year at West Virginia. I do know Drew Adams, who he just hired, because Drew was with us my first couple of years. I love Drew, and Drew speaks really highly of him. Brian Wardle, who played for me at Marquette and is the coach at Bradley, he speaks highly of him. So, but I just don't know him. I've never seen him practice or seen him in person like that, but his record and what he's done is impressive and speaks for itself.
Well, we're seeing all these teams, throughout the country right now, with their adjustments being made to NIL and the transfer portal. If you were a part of this right now, whether it would be at IU or just, School X, for example, right here, how would you handle it between the transfer portal and NIL and making sure you have the right combination and putting together that puzzle piece as accurately as possible for next season?
Well, I'd have a great negotiator, somebody that had negotiated contracts at a professional level that also could really evaluate. I would do that for sure. I think I would have somebody that I could talk to. I've been thinking about this, like somebody that has had success in stocks as a venture capitalist, somebody that can help you look at the money and not panic, which is really kind of happening because it's such a seller's market right now for these players. And I'm not blaming anybody for what it is, but it's just the numbers are just staggering. They're just crazy. And I still think that you've got to be able to – retention is obviously big. In the case of Indiana, they don't have that. There's other programs that don't have that right now because they're new programs. but the amount of money being spent on average players, the amount of money being spent on guys that have been very up and down is mind-blowing to me. And I think I'd want somebody on my staff that could help me take a breath, whether it was somebody that understood the markets, whether it's somebody I trust implicitly in a coaching role, but I'd want a staff full of people that understood what was going to work for us and not panic because we weren't getting certain guys. They're just getting so much money. And I don't blame them one iota, and I don't blame their financial planners. What I do blame are the ones that are taking big money without really understanding how that player fits. And so it just becomes a payday of short money versus being in a situation where you've got a chance to make long-term money as a player if you're good enough to make the NBA. So those would be things that I would really think about. I wouldn't be too wrapped up in helping a guy get better so he could make more money when he left, but I certainly wouldn't want to be wasting money on the front end on somebody that we couldn't develop, didn't want to develop, or hasn't won in the past.
So, Tom Crean on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Would you more prioritize recruiting or the transfer portal if you were in it now?
Well, I think you have to do both. I don't think you can do just one. But I think what's happening is at certain levels, there's such a push for the high-end guy, okay? And people are recruiting them, and some are recruiting as head coaches harder than others, right? I think it's really easy to fall into whatever narrative you want. Well, it's about the money. Well, it's about the transaction. Well, it's about knowing the agent, all that different stuff. And what happens is this. I'm for anything, and again, maybe it's because I was burned so bad my last couple of years at Georgia because we were dealing with the COVID rules. And as I've said on this show before, my last team at Georgia, there were only 2 guys that I ever recruited in person. So maybe I still feel the effects of not knowing people, but you have to know who you're recruiting. You have to know to some degree. And if that doesn't mean that you have enough time to get to know them, well, you better know some people that do know them, that will tell you the truth. And it doesn't matter if it's high school or if it's portal, because the portal's been open all year. It just became legal to go after people, in a legal way a short time ago. But people have been recruiting guys all year. That's why you'll see somebody go in the portal on Monday and they've already picked their school by Wednesday, right? They didn't just pick their school on Wednesday. They've known what they were doing for some time. And I think you've got to have a really good balance of both. And you still can't be afraid to go for some people that have high upside, that are quick learners. You have to have a team full of people if you're going to win big you have to have rim protection. It helps if they can score, but you've got to have rim protection. You have got to have decision-making guards that can make plays for others, and you have got to have shooting. And if you have that and you're filling in and making sure that you get guys that understand how to be team defenders, how to be team rebounders, all those different things, well, now you've got a chance to win. And I see so many people are just picking talented players that really, other than numbers, didn't do a lot in their previous school, and now they expect that they're going to change them when they come into their program. And that's the thing I've learned more than ever. You can help a player get better that really wants to get better. But too many players in this day and age, they're happy with who they are, and their families are happy with who they are, and they get this short-term money, which is great, but now they don't think they have to make those changes that they have to make to win big or to play in the NBA.
Tom Crean is with us. You brought up something that to me is very interesting, and I want to hear what you would have to say about it. You brought up about trying to help a player get better. How do you do that as far as, do you even look at it longer term, or you just look at that momentary season, that week-to-week, month-to-month impact that player would have? How worried or concerned would you be about how much better they could be as a project, considering how quickly now they can leave?
I don't think you can coach like that. And I think the fact that in my career, I've had guys that went after 1 year or went after 2 years or went after 3 years. And every time that we recruited, I was, you really try to run a projection. Like I could go back to some of our last classes with OG Anunoby. I thought perfect world, he can go in 2, but more likely 3. Jawan Morgan, I definitely had him out in 3 years in my mind. And I think when you do that, you're putting yourself on a clock to help make them better. Now, none of that works if they don't have a burning desire themselves to get better. And those kids are still out there. I mean, they are. The ones that really want to work and get better are out there. And I've never, ever wanted to coach in the way that whoever we had didn't have a chance to get better. Because if they go in the game, they got to be good enough to win for you, not just go in the game and lose for you. And I always try to judge players, okay, how many of these guys do we have that we could be down 4 with 4 minutes to go and find a way to win the game by 4 because they care enough? And now it's even more if you build a deeper team. How many guys do you have that it's the last 8 minutes, it's an 8-point game either way, and they're in condition to either pummel the team mentally and physically that they're playing against because they're stronger, or they're in the mental condition to come back? And I think more than ever that hasn't changed. And if you only have them for a year, well, so be it. Then you planted the seeds and you made them better. And anybody that fights that is really tricking themselves, because there are kids all over the country. Like I just did the games in Atlanta. If you'd have told me Trey Holloman was going in the portal 2 days after Michigan State got beat by Auburn, and I didn't ask Coach Izzo or anything about this, but I'd have said there's no way. I mean, that's one of the great cultures in college basketball. But 2 days after they lose the game, he's in the portal, and he won't be the last. After these games Monday, you'll have players that will be shocking to you that will go in the portal from these 4 teams that are playing tomorrow. It's just the way that it is. And if you can't live with that, if you can't make guys better while you have them and attack their weaknesses and make them feel stronger and then bring them together, this is the big thing, John. They have to come together when the game comes, because they know early. They know way before the coaches know who's going in the portal, who's getting paid what, who's going pro, what the list of schools is, what the market is. They know all that, and they know it way before the coaches. But you've got to have them together on game day. When that game is in the guts of the game and the moment of truth is there, are they together? And you try to recruit to that, but then you've got to build every day to get to that while you're coaching your present-day team.
Yes, Tom Crean on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. You mentioned you were in Atlanta this past weekend. Who do you think, as you just described, is the best example of these 1 seeds in the national semifinals that are playing in San Antonio coming up tomorrow night? Who's the greatest example as we talk right now of that?
Oh, I think you could make a case. Really, Duke's different because they recruited so well. They're totally different. I think they had 2 players coming back in Tyrese Proctor and Caleb Foster. So they recruited great. They recruited 3 lottery picks, obviously Cooper Flagg, Con Knipple, and Kaman Malawach. But they did a really good job of signing 3 veterans like Mason Gillis and Malik Brown and Sion James. They did a great job with that. But they're different. I think the other ones have done a fantastic job of retention. Everybody added a couple of guys. So like you look at Florida, they added Elijah Martin this year. Houston added Milos Uzan this year. Auburn added Miles Kelly this year. They all found a freshman. Tahad Pettiford at Auburn comes in and does a good job. To me, they're very, very similar. I think Florida is still the deepest. I'm not sure I still believe they're the one that's going to win it like I did the last couple of weeks, especially after being around Auburn and watching that. Somebody's going to have to kill Auburn because they're not going to – they can live in chaos like I've never seen. I mean, they can live in adversity. Yeah. They can be yelling at each other. Bruce can be yelling at them yelling back, and, man, they just find a way. And when I say kill them, I mean they're not going to lose the game. Somebody's going to have to absolutely beat them. And I think you could really say that about all of them. I think it's an anomaly what Houston did to Tennessee because Tennessee missed a lot of open shots, and I think what Houston did is they got them in a rush. Purdue played Houston better than Tennessee did because Tennessee got rushed. And then Zakai Ziegler started trying to go on bigs in the paint, and their footwork wasn't right, and they weren't holding their follow-through. All those things that happen to you when you're rushed. And so if Duke goes in and makes shots against Houston and gets the game going in transition, they can beat them. I think it's still wide open, but to me, those 3 teams are the new wave of college basketball. They've spent a lot of money. I don't think any of those 3 teams, I don't know what Duke's money is, but I don't think any of those three teams are near the top of the food chain on how much they've spent. But they did a great job of retention, and they've got an older group of guys that really come together when it gets tight.
Living in chaos and thriving in chaos since day one and flight number one is a great way to describe it with Bruce Pearl and that Auburn team going into the Final Four. Tom Crean on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Always a pleasure. We may catch you on the backside of this and see what you're thinking as we get into what used to be known as the offseason and the recruiting season, whatever the hell it is right now.
Oh,
Maybe
absolutely.
we'll.
And it was not a negative towards Auburn at all.
No,
no,
100%.
I watched Bruce run practice. I've never seen Bruce run practice, but in preparation for those games, as being a part of Westwood or CBS, you get to see the practices, and it's like I was blown away. Yeah. I mean, he's so good, but he just deals with whatever it is, and those guys come together. And I think that's what this tournament is fascinating about.
100% right
anytime.
there. Anytime. Hey, Tom, I appreciate it. We'll do it again very soon. Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you.
It's Tom Crean on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I thought that was the perfect example of Auburn from really, I mentioned day one, and remember the flight and all that went down? Living and thriving in chaos. Quick break. We shall return. We have tickets to give away. Do we have a wide open 5 o'clock hour?
As of right now, we're wide open.
No Wells. Nothing?
Nothing.
Where's Wells? Not got back with you?
Not got back to me.
All right, then. Is he still on vacation?
Not as far as I'm aware.
Are they on vacation in Brownsburg? I don't know. All right, then. 5 o'clock hour that looks to be wide open at 317-972-3005. You can join us. Got a lot to hit coming up, too, and your chance to win some concert tickets on the way to the 5 o'clock hour as well. The AAA Membership Lounge. It's YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Ride with JMV.
Johnny, don't! David Letterman!
Hi, David. I'm Grandpa.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Roll it, James. The greatest one-hit wonder of the 1980s is this classic. Miss Christina drives a 944. Crank it up for me, James. Satisfaction oozes from her pores. The lyrical wizardry, James. Rings on her fingers, marble on her floor. Be ready. Here, this is a good one right here. Ready? Cocaine in a dresser, bars on the door. Oh, that's great. The greatest one-hit wonder of the 1980s is this. Can you identify it? She keeps her back against the wall. So David and David says, what? Welcome to the Boomtown, David and David. What do you think, James? That's something you can get down to?
That's pretty good.
Hot 100, number 37, was its peak in 1986. David and David actually are two dudes that were better known as producers. I think David Bearwald and David Ricketts, if memory serves, right there. Two well-known producers, and Welcome to the Boomtown is kind of an ode to Los Angeles back in the mid-1980s right there. That is the classic one-hit wonder of the 1980s. And by the way, one-hit wonder weekend on B105.7, the JMV Takeover tomorrow night, coming at you from 6 until midnight. A shout-out because he did request, as he's watching right now, I think down in the Great Smoky Mountains, Gatlinburg, Tennessee, James, friend of the show, host of a morning show on a different station in this market, Dave Smiley.
Oh, really?
Of the Smiley Morning Show.
He's down in Tennessee?
He is in Gatlinburg right now.
It's a great place.
Going to hillbilly it up with everybody else down there. A little bingo later on tonight, smoking a lot of cigarettes, drinking some moonshine, and starting spring break with the lovely, the talented Sarah Brown, everybody right there.
So you going to hit Hillbilly Golf?
Hillbilly Golf. I've not been there in forever. Have you been there in a while?
I haven't been for several years, but I love Hillbilly Golf.
Actually, Smiley, to this show and to the JMV Takeover, he may be indeed a P1 listener. If you don't know what that means in radio terms, that is a constant listener and one of our best. Dave Smiley of the Smiley Morning Show on ZPL. Thank you for watching and listening. He wanted to hear Starship, We Built This City, but clearly that would not be a one-hit wonder right there. One-hit wonder weekend, JMV Takeover tomorrow night, 6 until midnight. On B105.7, thank you, Smiley, for listening, and welcome to the Boomtown, David and David. The absolute best of the 1980s. In case you missed it a little bit earlier, Josh Dix, he was an Iowa transfer guard, and it was described as what I guess people would suggest a key IU target. He committed earlier today to Creighton. So Creighton for Josh Dix from Iowa, the guard. And we talked to Tom Crean about the transfer portal, the handling of that, and NIL a moment ago. The podcast, 1075thefan.com. Dustin DePurac, Jazz and Pacers later on tonight. Bob Lovell, high school basketball. Hey, it's you and I rest of the way. 317-972-3005. That's the number. Let's talk it up on this Friday. 317-972-3005. A temporary number for an incredibly established station. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The cream, yeah. The cream of the crop. And there is no one that does it better.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, this is a cranker right here, and it's appropriate here, Central Indiana. Revis and Caught in the Rain. One-hit wonder from 2003. You guys remember this rock song? Revis, a band from Carbondale, Illinois. Keep this going. I do want you to raise the volume right here. This is it. It's almost like it was a story out of the film That Thing That You Do. It was a band that got notoriety with this song, overwhelmed by it, swamped by it, got pissy with one another, and then quit. Southern Illinois' finest, Revis and Caught in the Rain, is a one-hit wonder from 2003 right there. James, you have any recognition of Revis that's more age-appropriate for you?
I definitely remember that chorus. This is the only song of theirs that I've ever even heard of.
I think they may have had one more, but this one was the one that it was most noted. Mm-hmm. They were most noted for right there.
It has that early 2000 sound.
Oh, it does,
sure.
Doesn't it? Yeah, they're very early 2000, but it's funny. They're all just like a bunch of local dudes from Southern Illinois around Carbondale got together, I think as friends, and then got all pissy with one another and quit on one another. Really, That Thing That You Do, the film with the Wonders, is very similar to Revis. At least Revis being, a modern rock alternative band from the early 2000s, but similar story right there. James.
According to their Wikipedia, they have since reunited.
Have they really?
Yep.
Reunited, and it feels so good. Peaches and Herb is not a one-hit wonder.
And they actually just released last May a new EP containing 6 songs.
Justin Holman at lead vocals for Revis right there. All right, then. Hey, just in case you wanted to do a research paper on the band Revis, there you go. You always have me. I mentioned this. I think 5 o'clock hour is rather clear. Check that. 317-972-3005. That is a brand new number, however, incredibly temporary. 317-972-3005. Now, normally, Don Fisher couldn't go today. Normally, Don is locked here in this 5 o'clock hour. He can't go today. So it's you and I the rest of the way. We talked to Dustin DePurek a little bit earlier, Jazz and Pacers later on tonight. This is like a Bachman-Turner overdrive matchup, meaning you take care of business and you move on to what is more of a related matchup in Denver on Sunday night. What I mean by that is a team that's a former champion, a team that is high level in the Western Conference. If you want to gauge where you are against a really good team on Sunday night, that's when you do it. Tonight, you just take care of business against a team that really has zero interest in winning in the first place. And that's Utah. That's Johnny Utah from Point Break. Zero interest in winning. I know some of you responded when I asked Jake his favorite former Utah Jazz player. I think he said Mark Eaton. It's well done right there. I was going to give you Howard Isley. They're a bunch of big names. I don't know how much of a fan. I didn't really like the 90s Mountain version of their uniform. I still like the note, even though it's kind of weird because you move from New Orleans where the music note was incredibly appropriate as a logo, and then you go to Salt Lake City to where it's not so appropriate, which is weird. Like the Mountains was more appropriate, but they stuck with the Jazz name. I think that's a good thing. Jazz Pacers later on tonight. Tom Crean a little bit earlier. Hopefully you enjoyed that conversation about how he would handle NIL and the transfer portal now that we're all in it. His thoughts on Darren DeVries, the new head coach at IU. And then the Final Four. You have 4 number ones. And by the way, remember what I need here. And we're all rooting for me. The Diamond Madness with Moyer Fine Jewelers in Carmel. The show bar restock with Heaven Hill Distillery. I can win them both, like the Price is Right, in winning both showcases. I need Auburn and Houston tomorrow night. I need Houston over Auburn on Monday. Who's with me? And then I'm going to take that bad boy home. We'll talk Final Four if you guys want to go that direction as well. I know 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. Seriously, not since they had that kind of half-ass baseball, softball game. Do you guys remember that in Walnut Grove? Little House on the Prairie? Remember they were serving beer and selling pies and getting into brawls? Playing that drunken team from Sleepy Eye? Seriously, you have to go back that far in baseball legend and history to find another Reds team that got shut out 1-0 3 consecutive games. You know how hard that is to do? You know how ridiculous of a stat that is? And people wonder why I complain so much as a Reds fan. Early season or not. Say, what? This is what you get? I think the first week of the season. Reds Brewers this weekend, by the way, up in Milwaukee. We'll run down the rest of the list of Major League Baseball tonight and over the weekend as well. And some Colts conversation I had with you. I don't think that this is rocket science going into this draft, is it? I mean, don't you look at one position and go, all right. Now, I don't want to hear anything about how the board dictates the tempo for you or whatever the hell that nerdery is. I want to hear you make sure you address the position, the largest position, well, outside of quarterback, which we know how that's been addressed, but the largest position of need, it's easy. It's tight end. And yeah, while you're at it, go get the best. Can you go get the best? All right, that and more. Last word with the Gore Man, Matt Taylor, Casey Valier is coming up at 6 o'clock, 6:30 coverage for the Jazz and the Pacers right here. Pat Boylan has the pregame for you coming up tonight. 7 o'clock is that tip time from Cambridge Fieldhouse. All right, 317-972-3005. That is at a very temporary number for you right now. Dial it. We'll talk, beginning with Mike in Brooklyn, New York, who joins us now. Hello, Mike. How are you?
JMV, what's up, brother?
Were you surprised by this temporary number?
Hey, listen, I don't know if you ever seen the movie Moonstruck, Vincent Gardenia, when he tells Cher, everything in life is temporary.
Exactly. Everything, yes. Moonstruck, I believe that won an Academy Award for somebody, did it not?
Yeah, I think it won it for him, and I'm not sure about Cher, but I know that's like one of
maybe
my
it was like a
lines.
Best Picture nod or something like that back then.
I think
but
so.
yeah.
I actually seen that in the movie theaters, so.
See, I can tell you this, Mike. I can remember every movie because I had not seen a movie in a theater. This is a true story since September the 21st, 1999.
Wow.
I have not been in a movie theater since September the 21st, 1999. That was Star Wars Episode 1. It was the Jar Jar Binks character that I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm never coming back. And I was done.
All right, you got me beat.
Yeah.
I know that my last movie I seen, I think it was either Cloverfield or No Country for Old Men in like 2008, 8.
That's still an impressive run by you. But it's funny. I can remember every film that I've ever seen and what theater I was in prior to. Every one.
You know what? I'm pretty close to you. I'm not sure about everyone.
I think we're pretty close to one another right here. We're two peas in a pod, I think, Mike. Even though you're in Brooklyn and I'm right here in Indiana. So, yeah.
Without a doubt. I can finish your sentences half the time when I'm listening to you.
You got it. What you got, buddy?
Yeah, a little cold. So, listen, when you've been following this team for as long as I have, as closely as I have, even though we haven't heard from Jim Irsay directly, he's still speaking volumes to me. Because when you factor in that missive he sent out right before free agency, that was loud and clear. I'm as frustrated as you guys are, and I'm going to do something about it personally. And so I know when I'm watching like all these show analysts on ESPN and NFL Network, the big thing is, Chris Ballard has changed his approach. I'm like, guys, it's more like Jim Irsay is changing Chris Ballard's approach in the sense that he's given him his instructions and said, you work out the logistics and get back to me, and then I'll figure out what we're going to do. That's my take on it.
Not well. Listen, I just think that you either do it now or you don't. And when you talk about competition, and one of the shortcomings certainly has been defensively, and clearly nobody liked what Gus Bradley was doing at defensive coordinator. You don't bring in Lou Anarumo and not try to play to what has been his strengths in Cincinnati in the past. And I thought that was logical, what you had to do right there. So, yeah, this is not some – I would agree with you. I think there were a lot of voices that were coming at Chris Ballard and said, all right, it's ridiculous you're going into year number 9, but I don't feel like making changes right now. Thus, you need to make changes in your philosophy. And that's what has transpired.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. My thing is, like I said, I think what's lost on it. One of the funny things I remember was when Frank Reich was in Carolina, and I'm not a Frank Reich fan at all, but when he was in California, when he was in Carolina, they asked him, Frank, what went wrong in Indianapolis? And he said, quote, it's a one-man show over there. And he wasn't talking about Chris Ballard, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
My theory is Jim Irsay is as involved with the Colts' day-to-day operations as Jerry Jones is with the Cowboys. The only difference is Jerry Jones doesn't care. He wants you to know that he's in charge.
I will tell you this. I think that if Jim, Jim is on a much better track right now from what people will tell you. But if this were the feeling like Jim felt a couple of years ago, remember with Jeff Saturday on it? I mean, this whole thing would have been run by now. The whole thing would have. I think a lot of it has to do with his situation, his health, where he is right now. As he said, you know what, the energy is not there for me to redo this entire thing, for me to go through absolutely everything, all these interviews and fly all over the country right now. So I have you guys here in place. You guys are going to have to do something about it this year. And I think that was more a part of this equation, really, Mike, than anything else has been.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And when people say, well, Ballard's here so long, I think that's another part of it, too, is he's comfortable with these guys. But just why Grigson was there for so long, because he's got them broken in, to the way he wants things done. He's gonna get involved. He's always been involved.
Yeah.
Essentially, we're talking about head of football operations. Jim Irsay has been the head of the football operations essentially since he was a teenager, since before he got to Indianapolis, if you really want to look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, Pete Rozelle was calling him so that he could, when he was a kid, talk sense to his father when his father was the owner. So, a guy like that is not – he was involved when Bill Polian was there, too. I mean, he pretty much picked Tony Dungy, and he picked Peyton Manning, too. It was mostly Jim Irsay's call. They said when the last week before the draft, Bill Polian was wavering, and they had to send in Bruce Arians and Tom Moore to tell him, what are you doing? You got to take Peyton. He was like, oh – I don't like his deep ball accuracy, and I think Bruce Arians made me laugh when he said, "Are you crazy?" He says, "Don't worry, we won't throw anything over 40 yards. Just take Peyton." That's the story that I heard. So Jim Irsay is always going to be involved. He's always going to be the head of the football operations. These other teams in the league now, they're not calling it that anymore. They're hiring guys. They're calling it senior advisor. So that's what we need, a senior advisor to advise Jim Irsay, not to, go completely, as he tends to do sometimes, go completely overboard and just, blows everything up. Just have a little more. We need the Jim Irsay of the.
Yeah, and I think you would, if he felt a little bit better prior to, I think you would have that. That's why I can't wait. And I was a little bit disappointed because he was unable to be, at the owners' meetings and speak. And I can't wait till he speaks around here because you want to hear from him. But I just think different situation health-wise, different situation as far as the makeup of this organization. I think it's one of the reasons why they stood firm with basically everything but the defensive coordinator. Mike, I appreciate that call. Anything else, my brother?
No, that's it, bro. This is like talking to you is like my therapy session. So,
we all need that, my man. We all need it around here. There's way too much losing around here not to get a good therapy session in. Thank you, man. Have a great weekend.
All right, brother. Have a great weekend. You too. Good luck.
All right. It's all ball. Well, not really all ball conversation with you right here. We can go any direction you want. It's not like anything goes directionally speaking, but it's pretty close. Like Joseph writes this, in honor of the passing of Val Kilmer, could you tell us your favorite role from him? I got to go with Doc Holliday, followed by the amazing performance of Jim Morrison. Doc Holliday's at the top of the list, but I can't help it. And I think what happens is I always will get swept away by the absolute level of ridiculousness of the two-man volleyball scene. But I've got to go Iceman. I've got to go Iceman in the original Top Gun. Seriously, I mean, you had me at playing volleyball in jeans, shirtless, although I think he was shirtless but in sweatpants.
You haven't seen Top Gun Maverick yet, have you?
I have not.
Oh, there's a scene between Val Kilmer and Tom Cruise in that is so touching. It is just so emotionally heavy.
Yeah.
It's a great scene.
And
Great movie.
I think Tom Cruise has like referenced that recently, right? About that scene being so meaningful for him. So, quick update. Mathurin, Siakam, Neesmith, James, all playing tonight.
There you go.
Hey, I tell you what, kick some ass, and then you can rest on the bench. But to me, I want to see, like, Siakam needs more of a dose of, hey, look at my shots going in. I'm that level of superior confidence. Well, everybody needs a little shot of that. We all need shots of confidence. You need to be told, right? More than occasionally how good of a job that you're doing. A little pat on the back. Positive affirmation. I think everybody needs that. And if you're a player of that magnitude, it doesn't matter. You're there, or you're me, or you're you, or you're somebody that plays even less on the reg than we do. You feel better when what? When your shot goes in. And you know what? It's weird how that lifts up everything else. Seriously, you can stand on your head. It's weird how that helps out everything. All of a sudden, there's not as much pain. All of a sudden, I'm not so tired. I'm not so exhausted. Shot-making ability is, in basketball terms, normally a cure-all elixir. Again, Mathurin, Siakam, Neesmith. All later on tonight. Our good guy, Chris Denary, Chris and Quinn and JJ and Eddie for you coming up later on tonight. I love the bro chat going on inside the AAA membership lounge via YouTube Live. Shout out to Sean Collinsworth, who was in there with Dave Smiley. That's well done. Now, where was I? I'm sorry, Joseph. Yeah, I would go Top Gun just because of the two-man beach volleyball scene. I think Rick Rossovich was, what was it? Was that Slider? Was that the partner of Iceman, Val Kilmer? Rick Rossovich, the actor's name? He looked like he probably had a little athleticism. But between Anthony Edwards, Tom Cruise, and Val Kilmer, there wasn't a lot of athleticism there. But I still take that scene over any other. And I love Doc Holliday and obviously Tombstone. James?
I was just about to say there is a scene in Top Gun Maverick that is very it calls back to the volleyball scene.
Well, and you also, this is how genius this was. Because not only did you have the really awkward volleyball scene that went on forever and it was awesome, but then you had the song Playing with the Boys in the background from Kenny Loggins. I mean, just perfect.
There's a lot of
perfect for that.
There's a lot of Kenny Loggins in that movie.
There's a lot of Kenny Loggins in general on soundtracks of the 1980s, but that's just perfect stuff right there. So Joseph, I would say Iceman and Top Gun, the greatest all-time late great Val Kilmer role. Agreed. Steve is at 317-972-3005. Hello, Steve. Steve, I am here. Are you there? Steve sounds like he is unavailable for comment. It's going to be weird. It's almost like it is. Is Steve asleep like we've had before?
It just sounds like a dead line.
Hey, before the break here, let's get. I know Fulton's been on hold for a minute. Hey, buddy, what you got going on? You playing two-man? Are you playing two-man beach volleyball this weekend?
No, not today.
Okay.
I'm kind of busy this week.
Busy? You're never busy. What are you talking about? How can you be busy? You call me 19 times a week.
Yeah, I know.
What do you got going on, buddy?
Well, I'm going to my friend's birthday party tomorrow.
Well, what's your friend's? Who's your friend?
Christopher Jones. He just turned 16 yesterday.
Well done, Christopher Jones. Did you get a present?
Not yet, but we're gonna be getting him a picture.
Okay.
Of his favorite soccer player.
Oh, who's his favorite soccer player? Who is it?
His favorite soccer player, Cristian Ronaldo.
Okay, I got you.
Yep.
Did you say Cristiano Ronaldo? Is that what you said?
Yep, that's the one.
There you go, buddy. Well, go out and get it. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll call you in the JMV takeover. I know Earth, Wind, and Fire is the one-hit wonder.
Let me tell you this, buddy.
Yeah.
Are you still going on stage at Everwise with Earth, Wind, and Fire in July?
I sure am.
Is this a go? And you're taking your ukulele?
Yeah, I'll take my ukulele with me.
Well, I mean, do they want you to play it? Are you playing your ukulele on stage with them?
Yeah, I'm going to try.
All right, well, tell me this. You're going to go up on stage. Did this all happen because of the Fulton Earth, Wind, and Fire September remix on the JMV Takeover?
Yep, it sure is.
Man, this is incredible. Incredible. Well, we're all going to be there. All of the fans of the JMV Takeover of this show will be there to see you go up on stage at Everwise in July with Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's magnificent.
That'll be great. Yep. And there is $15 ticket for the Suzuko the Musical on May 15th through the 17th. You're welcome to come, John. You're invited.
You got it, buddy. Keep me updated.
I will.
If there is one guarantee, that's Fulton right there. If there's one guarantee, James, is that Fulton will call me tomorrow on the JMV Takeover.
Absolutely.
There is one guarantee. One guarantee in our existence, that would be it. I am trying to think for a moment. Fulton's got his ukulele on stage with Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty incredible. There has to be a story or something done on that.
Well, how many times do you think you've actually, with the takeover, gotten somebody on stage with the band that you're playing? This might be the first.
How about never? Now, I will say this. I have an interview with John Waite from yesterday that I'm going to put online. He's at Hendrix Live later on tonight, which is going to be great. That's a great venue over in Plainfield, right off of US 40, right in, basically, that little area, downtown area, I guess you would call it a Plainfield. But John Waite's going to be there, and John Waite asked me to come back and see him, but I don't think I'm going to get off in time to go do it. But tonight, if you've not known with John Waite, you know of one of the best songs, most popular songs of the decade of the 1980s, and that's the song Missing You. But he was also the front man for the Babies, and they have a tremendous catalog. He was front man for the band Bad English and the song When I See You Smile, which was also one of the more noted songs at the end of the 1980s. But he does all of them right there. And also, this is one, speaking of soundtracks and Top Gun, his song Change, because we just celebrated the 40th anniversary of the soundtrack to the film Vision Quest. His song Change is in Vision Quest with Matthew Modine, when Matthew Modine is proving to the team and his wrestling coach that he can lose weight and wrestle down because he has a challenge or a vision quest, and he climbs that pegboard in the wrestling room. That not even Otto, the real heavyweights, real big weightlifting dude, could do. Matthew Modine did it. Loudon Swain.
I have only heard the title of the film, Vision Quest, and that is not at all what I thought was going to be the plot description.
I think it transitioned into wanting to nail the 20-year-old drifting, smoking, red-hot chick living in his basement. I think he had a pair of vision quests, plural. I think it was to wrestle, shoot, and then to nail the 20-year-old smoking, red-hot drifter living in his basement.
I thought it was some sort of fantasy movie.
No, it was real. It was all real. Is there anything more real than a smoking ass hot, drifting chick invited to live by your father in your basement? I mean, is there anything more real life than that?
It's the most
Seriously.
realistic scenario I've ever heard.
I mean, it could be called Vision Quest because he wanted to get down with that and also wanted to beat you. Vision Quest is what they should have called it. Just Vision Quest. He also, too, had a best friend named Cooch, which I had great admiration for. Because I always wanted my nickname to be Cooch. It just never was. Unfortunate. So, yeah, I don't know. Skivvy says play the Gene Simmons interview. It's funny, right? So I do the Gene Simmons interview a couple of weeks back when the tour was still a tour. I don't think it's a tour any longer.
Yeah, I think it's been canned.
I will say this. We still may be able to reclaim it because there is a lot of Indy 500. If you remember, Gene Simmons put together I Am Indy, that song for IndyCar, and I think still takes credit to this day for the development of the term, this is true Gene Simmons fashion, he takes credit for the term IndyCar.
That's the most Gene Simmons things I've ever heard.
It is incredibly Gene Simmons. So that was me. The IndyCar, that term is me. Speaking of which, Doug Bowles and I are getting together next week. We're putting together something incredibly special for you as far as Carb Day is concerned. That is coming up next week. All right, quick break. We'll come back. You and me the rest of the way, the final 30 on this Friday. It's unfortunate we are not out today, but we're having a good time anyway. Tom Crean a little bit earlier. That podcast, 1075thefan.com. Dustin DePurak talks Jazz and Pacers with us. Matherin, Siakam, and Neesmith all active and playing later on tonight. A team that doesn't want to win and a team that wants to win. That's what you got with the Jazz and the Pacers. Tip time 7 o'clock coming up later on tonight, and Bob Lovell a little bit earlier too. In this studio on Monday, 4 o'clock, Frank Caliendo will be here. The incredible comedian. And a big fan of this show and a big fan of Indy, is going to be really all over the state, including performing later on next week here in Indy. Frank Caliendo is in studio coming up on Monday at 4 o'clock. Also, a lot of college basketball conversation. Final Four coming at you. That is tomorrow evening from San Antonio. That and more, too. Rest of the way. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
a Turkish prison.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
James over there. I'm John. Thank you for joining us. One-hit wonders can be what they call earworms, too, and this is definitely one. Chumbawamba's Tub Thumping. Pissing the Night Away. Back in, 1997, I believe, is that for Tub Thumping right there for the 1990s. One-hit wonders. Hey, tomorrow night, the JMV Takeover. If you listen to this show and have never listened or called in to the one on B105.7 between 6 and midnight every Saturday night, live in studio taking a request, hey, cut loose on it coming up tomorrow night. We'll have some fun. We always have some fun. It is a good time. And it's funny, like nobody does that. And I don't understand why nobody does it. Because that's what people that really want to hear radio, that's what they want. And they don't want to hear you jacking around and voice tracking and taping and half-assing. They want to hear you. And even if you don't like me, I mean, either you're searching for something that you like about me endlessly, fruitlessly, you're searching, or you just can't wait to disagree on why I felt you should keep this Pacer team together. Or, what should be the major focus. And I don't want to hear about the whole draft board dictating who you select in round number 1 for the Colts. Or why they've decided to go with this group other than the defensive coordinator again when we all kind of know what we're dealing with at this point right now. Or the whole quarterback competition. You may completely disagree with it. But, live here, opinions here, conversations here, not half-assed and taped. And that's what you get on Saturday night. Live in studio. It's funny, too. People have said, you know what? Why don't you voice track this? Why do you got to go in there? It ruins your Saturday. Well, I have no Saturday nights to ruin because I do jack squat anyway. And I'm telling you, if I'm going to do something on a Saturday night, it might as well be constructive and fun. I'm like your dance club DJ, seriously. If you're having a party, you crank me up. We're the life of the party. JMV Takeover, 6 until midnight every Saturday night, B105.7. I think they're doing on B this weekend, a One-Hit Wonders weekend. We'll do a lot of that coming up tomorrow night for you. Meantime, 317-972-3005. If you're calling the other number by memory, don't, because this is temporary and this is real. And you know where I want to go with that reference, but I won't because somewhere Todd is saying don't go there with that reference. 317-972-3005, temporary and real. John's up next. Hello, John. How are you?
JMV, how are you?
John, great to hear from you, brother.
You as well, sir. So I'm looking at the transfer portal. I'm seeing Jaden Daughtry, Samaj Teal, and Aaron Gray all entered in the portal. What does our Sycamores team look like next year?
Kind of what it looked like going into last year, right? Or kind of what I should say, kind of what it's funny. I'm glad you called, John, too, because it was this date a year ago when you knew everything ended. When you knew you were going to have at least, the starting five players, and then, the graduating senior leaving, you knew you were going to lose those 5 players. You knew you were going to lose your head coach, and you knew it was all over. And then you probably knew that Matt was going to take over as the next head coach once Josh Schertz ends up getting offered wherever he was going, ultimately to St. Louis. So really, they're in a much similar situation as they were a year ago without the feel-good that was last year making that run to the NIT championship. And having Hinkle Fieldhouse absolutely powder-blued up with Indiana State Sycamore fans a year ago last night was incredible. And it's the same, but without that feeling, if that makes sense to you.
It does. It does. Thank you for your opinion, sir. Can't wait to listen to the Takeover tomorrow
John,
night.
are you calling from Terre Haute?
I am.
My goodness. Where you live in Terre Haute, by the way? 8th and Crawford? Is that still standing where I used to throw the biggest and best parties of all time over there?
17th and Crawford is actually the best spot.
Are you really? What, 7?
No, I'm on the north side.
8th and Crawford. So, are you understanding of the legend? I had to throw these great parties.
Oh, I heard. I've heard.
Because then the Pike fraternity would come over, right? The Pikes, because when they held their parties, there were never any chicks there. So the Pike fraternity got to see some chicks, right? Because they got to come to my parties. Otherwise, it'd be like a big Boy Scout meeting with them. No chicks. Okay, why am I DJing this party with no chicks? What are you guys doing? So it was always for the Pikes over there. And really, the ATOs and all those other nerds over there, those fraternity dudes wanted me to throw parties too because they knew they were the best.
Well, there still is the legend of the Soccer House. Do you remember the Soccer House?
Oh, the Soccer House. Come on now. The Soccer House cannot hold a candle to 8th and Crawford. 8th and Crawford's legendary.
Sir.
Yeah.
It is.
I only got a handful of people arrested. Only a handful.
You did better. You did better than Larry.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
That's John in Terre Haute. Jay is online too at 317-972-3005. Hello, Jay.
Hey, John, talking about Terre Haute, I was at the Terre Haute Casino and Resort last Friday night when Purdue lost. It was great.
Can you believe I've never been there?
I had $20 free of slots to play.
I have. Is the place
we made
nice?
It last an hour and 15 minutes.
I've heard great stories about that place. Is it true?
Is that close to Indiana State?
I think it's over off of 46, right? 46. I think it's on the east side of Terre Haute, out by the airport in that Meyer location. Isn't that where it is? I believe.
Yeah, it's just off the highway.
Yeah. So.
And anyhow, I'm like you. I want to see Auburn and Houston win this weekend, even if Denham shirt has to win in that.
Because you want to see me win. You want to see me win both showcases, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
I understand.
Plus, I remember those fights on Little House on the Prairie, and Nellie Olson's dad was like Jerry Cooney throwing a left and a right.
That was a good fight. I'll tell you what, nobody wanted to mess with Mr. Edwards back then. Victor French was a badass back in 1974.
And Michael Landon was looking like Floyd Mayweather.
Jay, good to hear from you, man.
Okay, good to hear from you. Have a good one.
You got it. Hey, James, I know we need to hit a break here, but Steve's been on and off the program so far today. Steve, we're going to get you on before the break. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, JMV. How you doing?
Great, buddy. Go ahead.
And, I ran into Jimmy, our friend of the show.
Yes.
At a grocery store. He's working there, and I was in line with just one item. A lady in front of me had a huge grocery cart and said, "Please go ahead," which I did. Said thank you, and then Jimmy was ringing me up and surprised me. He knew my name because I liked him.
That's awesome.
And then I forgot my wallet, and he paid for my stuff. So I'm just talking about the outreach of your show.
Well, let me tell you this. Jimmy and the Eggleston family are possibly the greatest people you will ever meet, from top to bottom. Jimmy, brothers, mom, dad, they are great people. That is thank you for sharing that story, man. That is feel good, Steve. Thank you very much.
Thank you for everything, man.
You got it. That's Steve right there. That is awesome. We love Jimmy Eggleston. And it's not just me or us. It's Hagen, the girls, everybody is a part of the show. Love Jimmy and the family. What a great story, Steve. Thank you again for sharing. All right, quick one. At JMV, what's the deal with the WTHR weather people not having their jackets off with the storms the other night? I don't know. Was there a mandate at Channel 13? Was Sean Ash? Did Sean Ash rock a jacket? Because I know that. They had Angela in. It was like all hands on deck, and Angela's not going to wear a suit coat. Angela doesn't really apply to the whole jacket off thing that I talk about here, clearly. But I didn't notice if Sean was rocking one or not. He should not be where at this point, we know this. We know Chris Wright and we know that Brian Wilkes, because of the reach and your response to the show, they were going to go jack it off. We knew that. We knew if there was going to be any jacket offing, it was going to be Brian Wilkes and Chris Wright. But I did not see, I don't know if Sean was doing that or not. Thank you, Madkins. Quick break, we'll come back. Final time on the show today, and time to work you in. Again, our temporary numbers, 317-972-3005. Concert tickets also on the way. It is Matherin, it is Siakam, and it is Neesmith. Now, the most interesting aspect is Matherin, who is back tonight. Jazz Pacers, tip time 7, 6:30 coverage begins after the last word. That's Colts program that comes your way top of the hour. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
You know what you'll find?
Picture me?
No! The definition of the word idiot, which you f***ing are.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Just a heads up, that was Val Kilmer right there.
It was.
Yeah, it was.
Shout out to the late, great Val Kilmer. And we've got concert tickets right now featuring Modest Mouse, James. Is Float On a one-hit wonder?
This might be the only song of theirs that I recognize, but I also am not very familiar with
I don't know if that
Modest
counts
Mouse.
as a one-hit wonder if we just don't recognize it. Modest Mouse and Flaming Lips together at the Everwise Amphitheater this summer, number 9 at 317-972-3005 will go on us and hear Modest Mouse play what I guess we'll recognize right now as a one-hit wonder, Float On. Number 9, 317-972-3005. Meantime, transfer portal news. Purdue transfer Cam Heide has committed to, you guys want to guess? Cam Heide has committed to, if you were to say Minnesota, you would be wrong. Cam Heide has committed to play for Sean Miller and Texas. So big-time cash flow for the 6'7" sophomore who averaged below 5 points per game a year ago for the Boilermakers. That has to be it, right? Big-time cash. Texas gets a commitment from Cam Heide. This news as well, as far as baseball is concerned, apparently the Reds are dealing with not just a little bit of – they've been down with the sickness with their offense. 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. Shut out of 3 straight games, 1-0. They're in Milwaukee later on. Tonight, the general manager, Nick Kroll, met with reporters in Milwaukee within the last hour. They have sent some staff and players back to the hotel in too deep. One-hit wonder. Back to the hotel. Their words, not mine. Francona is expected to manage tonight. They have enough guys to play. Kroll didn't share who's sick. By the looks of their offense, I think they're all pretty sick right now. You like that back to the hotel reference with in too deep? Thank you. A little bit after 8 o'clock, I think, local time for the Reds coming up later on tonight. Hey, by the way, too, afternoon baseball, it's the Cubs doing it again. Corey Kenny's happy. 3-1 over the Padres today at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Red Sox a winner as well. Tigers a winner over the White Sox. Mets over the Blue Jays 5-0 all earlier this afternoon. That Reds game, 8:10 tonight from Milwaukee with sick players and some within too deep back to the hotel. All right, Jazz Pacers later on tonight. Dustin Dupurek joined us a little bit earlier. Podcast 107.5 The Fan. .com. Matherin is back. Neesmith is playing. Siakam is playing. Jazz and Pacers tip time 7 o'clock. Coverage begins at 6:30. Tom Crean also on the show. Bob Lovell on the show. James, great job out of you. Me tomorrow night. A little one-hit wonder weekend at a JMV takeover, 6 until midnight on B105.7. 30 minutes prior to the Pacer pregame, it's the last word. Gorman, Matt Taylor, Casey Valier, Colts Conversation. That is on the way next. Have a great weekend. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.